Set off from Roy Bridge at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, having travelled up from Manchester to Glasgow and then Glasgow to Roy Bridge by train. The weather was blustery with occasional showers, but not bad for Scotland. I spotted my first deer and then shortly afterwards passed a plaque commemorating the Battle of Moray in 1688. After a few kilometres, the parallel roads appeared on both hillsides. These are not man-made, despite their remarkably straight lines along the contours of the hills, but were created thousands of years ago by glacial action. I'm in my tent at the end of a successful first day. Walked for just over 3 hours up the valley with the River Rob on my right hand side. You may be able to hear it in the background. A bit of rain and a bit of drizzle, a bit of wind, but nothing serious for Scotland, and it's dry now and the wind has largely died down. So I found a lovely spot for camping right by the river. I did think at first I was going to struggle a bit because there didn't seem to be anywhere suitable, but the valley then sort of opened out and widened, and I'm down by the side of the river. So I'm about to have something to eat, and I'll see you in the morning. I did not have a good night's sleep because my inflatable mattress deflated, leaving me cold and uncomfortable. Wind and heavy rain didn't help either. So I decided to skip breakfast as I was planning on stopping at a bothy later in the morning and set off in good weather, walking alongside the River Roy. I passed Bray Roy Lodge and then Roy Falls before an unclear path headed off across rough ground to the left towards Luib Chonal Bothy. When I arrived there, I stopped for a well-earned break with a good view of White Falls and behind it the snow-capped hills. Mount Chonal River, directly behind the bothy, was in spate, so unsafe for crossing, which necessitated a slow, wet and boggy walk a kilometre upstream to a narrow bridge and then a return equally wet and boggy down the other side until I returned to the bothy, except now on the other side of the river. From here, the path led up to a Bealac crossing from Glen Roy into the upper reaches of the Spey Valley. This pass was the watershed between the east and west coast of Scotland, and shortly after, Loch Spey itself came into view. This was a significant moment in my walk, as the plan was indeed to walk from the source of the River Spey, emerging from Loch Spey, all the way to the sea. It's turned into an absolutely beautiful evening now. I've just got a couple more miles to go to get to my spot for the night, but just have a look round. That's the River Spey that I'm now following since leaving Loch Spey, and there it is, gently wending its way down eventually to the sea, where I'll be in 7 days' time. This is my spot for tonight, night 2. Lovely position right by the River Spey, as you can see. Glorious sunshine, quite windy, but a lovely evening. So I've got the tent up and pitched, and it's right by Garver Bridge, a lovely old stone bridge with snow-capped mountains in the background. So I'm going to get myself something to eat and settle down for the night. Good morning, welcome to day 3. I've just set off from that lovely camp spot last night. It was cold again in the night, so plenty of clothing on. Didn't have a good night but slept eventually, woken by the alarm at 7. It's just after 8 now and I'm on my way. I'm on my way to Lagan, where I'm going to be getting something to eat. It's a lovely, quiet and peaceful walk along an easy road with further sightings of deer and Highland cattle. And it was so still that when I arrived at the reservoir behind the Spey Dam, the hills opposite were perfectly reflected in the water, and snow-capped hills were visible in the distance. Scotland at its best. I arrived at Lagan at 11 o'clock and enjoyed a delicious breakfast and a friendly welcome at the Lagan Cafe. From here, I proceeded along a quiet road, passing an impressive memorial to Ewan Macpherson, the last Jacobite fugitive to reach France in 1755. And then shortly afterwards, an equally impressive boulder marking the official centre of Scotland. I crossed over the River Trwym, the railway line, and the A9 road to pick up an estate road leading to General Wade's military road. I followed this in a straight line northeast in the direction of Newton Moor to arrive at the bothy where I was stopping for the night. However, I'm not giving its name or location as it is a private estate bothy, but it certainly was a lovely bothy with fresh flowers, clean and tidy. However, for reasons which I will explain to you tomorrow when I'm on my way, I decided not to stay in the bothy despite it being very pleasant and clean, and instead pitch my tent outside. Good morning, welcome to day 4, and a very wet and cloudy and misty day it is, as you can see. Not nice at all. Steady rain, not heavy, and this wasn't forecast. It was supposed to be more sunny. Well, last night was quite an experience. I was planning on staying at the bothy when I got to the bothy, and I'd been told, because it's a private bothy and they keep it very quiet, there wouldn't be anyone else there, it wasn't much used. Well, would you believe, 2 older men, one of whom it was his birthday, arrived with beer and whiskey and music system, and then 8 younger women all arrived on a hen do. So 10 other people for my quiet night. So I bailed out and pitched my tent outside rather than in. And the 8 women were a curious group because they all looked quite fit and healthy and sort of active and had quite good sort of gear on their feet and stuff, but they were all wearing bright coloured leggings. Anyway, it all came clear this morning. I was talking to the one whose hen do it is, and she's known for her bright leggings, and so they all put on similar leggings for the day, for the hen do. And in fact, they're very outdoorsy types. They all work at mountain outdoor centres or off-road cycling training or mountain leadership and such like. So that explains the incongruence of sort of outdoorsy type women arriving in the most bizarre leggings. So that was last night. Today's quite a sort of significant point in my trip. It's the halfway point. I'm heading to Aviemore, and I'll be staying in a hotel there and eating out at a nice pub that I booked, so that's a treat to look forward to. And also it's the point really at which the walk switches from outdoor wild country, wild camping, solitude, and joins the Speyside Way, which I'm anticipating will be quite a lot busier, passing through a lot of villages, waymarked, clear trails and such like. So really it's a walk of two halves. Anyway, better get on. Got to get there in time to eat. The route was clearly marked along well-maintained forest paths. I passed close to the impressive Ruthven Barracks atop a hill, a relic of the Jacobite rebellion, and then the magical Lochen, I think that's how it's pronounced, before arriving at the water sports centre at Loch Inch, where I stopped for lunch. I continued along through the village of Kincraig and then arrived at the town of Aviemore, where I was staying for the night at the Premier Inn and eating at the Old Bridge Inn. Day 5 underway. Last night was at a hotel in Aviemore, so I'm refreshed and revived, hopefully. It was wonderful to sleep in a proper bed. I've had 3 really bad nights in the tent with my mattress that won't stay inflated, cold, lying on the hard ground. So, proper bed. Had a nice meal out at the Old Bridge Inn in Aviemore, well recommended. And then a good breakfast this morning at the hotel. Popped into, walking through Aviemore, stopped off and got a couple of postcards for the granddaughters, 2 of the grandchildren, and then I went into Mountain Warehouse and I bought a new self-inflating mattress, which is considerably bulkier and heavier than my ultralight inflatable one, but if it does the job it'll be worth it. But I've had to sort of pack it into my pack, bit of a squeeze, and now of course I'm carrying extra weight, but we'll see how we go tonight and hopefully sleep. So today is heading for Grantown on Spey, staying at a campsite there, that's booked, and that'll be via Boat of Garton on the way. Speak to you later. I followed the Speyside Way along easy trails and paths and arrived at the Boat of Garton, where I stopped at the village shop for some coffee and food. Boat of Garton is an attractive little village with a steam railway station and a secret garden. On leaving Boat of Garton, I crossed the River Spey and walked along the road heading towards Nethy Bridge. Crossed over the bridge spanning the River Nethy and stopped there for tea and cake. From here on, it was a straight path to Grantown on Spey, where I camped at the rather smart campsite about a kilometre further north of the town centre. Day 6, so well over halfway now. So last night, yes, was spent at the campsite, nice very flat level ground, and my new mat that I bought in Aviemore. So I actually had a fairly comfortable night's sleep, kept me warmer, and of course more protection and padding. Went out to eat at Craig Bar in Grandtown last night, so quite an eccentric landlord there, joking and joshing, and a delicious pie and chips from a good range of pies, so recommended. Now on my way, been going about half an hour, left Grandtown behind, and it's a lovely trail, straight level through these woods, and it's still exceptionally peaceful and solitude. I'd imagined that once I got onto beyond Aviemore, on the more touristy section, there might be more people, but not so far. I arrived at an impressive iron bridge across the River Spey, and then onto the outskirts of Cromdale, where I turned left to follow the old railway line. Cromdale station has been lovingly restored, and the owner kindly showed me round. It is now a holiday home with delightful touches, such as platform 9 3/4 cushions from the Harry Potter movies. A couple of kilometres after Cromdale, the most difficult section of the Speyside Way began, variously described as dangerous, overgrown, muddy and restricted. And it was indeed muddy, with frequent chain gates, and in places walking along field borders hemmed in by barbed wire fences. I decided to take the option of diverting off the path and dropping down to the A95. I picked up the trail again and followed this alongside the River Spey to Ballindalloch station and pitched my tent at the free camping spot just adjacent to it. Yesterday I found myself struggling a bit towards the end of the day. My right thigh feels like I've pulled a muscle, and my left shin was really quite painful. I think that's an old running injury from years ago that seems to be complaining, so I don't know whether I'm exacerbating it or it's just a bit achy and painy. So I'm really uncertain if I can get all the way over the next 2 days. It's going to be a test day today. I'll see if I can get to Aberlour, which is the next spot, which is 10 miles, and it's supposed to be very flat along the old railway line next to the river. So I'll give that a try and see how it bears up. But it may be I have to do a little bit of hitchhiking to get to the final destination, which will be a shame, but if I can't make it, well, I can't make it. The route descended to the River Spey, and then I crossed the River Fiddick on an impressive metal girder bridge. From here it was pleasant walking, passing Black Boat Station, and then the start of various distilleries. Early afternoon I arrived at the small town of Aberlour with its delicate suspension bridge. I had some lunch here, and as my ankle was holding up well, I continued following the old railway line to arrive at Craigalachy. So this is my spot for the night, and I'm delighted that I made it, really, because last night I really thought I might have to give up. My leg was hurting me quite badly anyway. This morning I thought, well, I'll give it a go. It's only 12 miles and it's all along the old railway line, so it's flat and it's level and it's easy walking. So I'm at Fiddick Park, which is listed as a place where you can camp, and for the first time there are other sort of people around. There's some tents there, as you can see, and then swinging round, that's the toilet block, which is closed, so no toilet, no water, and there's another tent not too far away from me. So I'm just off to the pub now. One more full day tomorrow. I hope I can make it. It's about 12 miles and it's uphill, whereas today was flat. Well, day 8, I left the campsite in glorious sunshine and it's just started snowing. I don't know if you can see that on the picture. Anyway, so snow is coming down. So there we are, what a change. Let's hope it's just a blast that blows through. And now it's hailing. So I've had snow, bright sunshine, and back to hail. This really is 4 seasons in one morning. Fortunately, the weather improved again by the afternoon and the path descended past the Speyside Gun Club with the red light illuminated, so I didn't linger around there, and then continued past another sturdy iron girder bridge spanning the River Spey, and then along an easy path into Fockabers, and found the nice campsite for the night where I set up my tent ready for the final half day tomorrow morning. The final day was a bit disappointing. I had hoped for a walk along the riverside path following the Spey till it poured out into the sea to complete my journey. But in fact, the path meanders inland and in many places is going along a path hemmed in by farmers' fences. And the river itself broadens out into an estuary, so it loses its speed and its grandeur, and shingle banks appear in the middle of the river. So I got to within sight of the houses at Spey Bay and decided that was far enough. I was pressed for time, so returned to the campsite, picked up my gear, got the bus to Inverness and the plane home to Manchester.